Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse with a bomb drop of July 7th, 2024 and a date of marriage of 1990. She is not yet familiar with energy level types or contact types. She says, my husband moved to our basement and said he's never been alone and he just wants to work. Oh, he wants to work 2 jobs. He has a female friend that he used to work with who he used to spend hours a day on the phone with, saying they were trying to start a business. But he knew it bothered me, so he hid the phone screen and would sneak around to talk to her. I don't think it was ever physical, but he spent a lot of time with her before they both quit and he moved downstairs. They gave up the business idea and he says he just checks in now. I'm assuming he means he just checks in with her, right? Okay. He doesn't really talk or text me all week, but on the weekends, he's here fixing things or doing yard work before he goes to work. He talks about both our jobs, about our grown daughters and other family members, and he has family dinner on Sunday nights. We've gone to visit our new grandson together and gone to a wedding together. He said he wants us to be friends, but it hurts to think the only thing he wants to give up is our marriage relationship. Okay, so first thing, right now you have contact type or is an at home. So when it comes to contact type and if they're at home, since we often can't really tell if they're going to be certain kinds, it's an at home, especially because when they're at home, they haven't vanished and they're not really off and on. And they're kind of a boomerang because you have regular contact, but you can't tell if they're going to be clinging or not so much when they leave. So at home and within boomerang territory simply because he's at home. Okay. And energy type, you have a low energy wallower. This because it is more overt depression, which means it is depression that is not as masked. He is lower energy. And for comparison, the high energy replayers act as though they're living life's bachelor party. They are out partying, they may be doing drugs. If they had previous addictions, many of them are on the wagon. They may fall off off of that, go into addictions. They may start new addictions. They may ramp up if they were just, I drink, but they weren't alcoholics or anything. Well, that might change. They make excuses for all of this behavior. They didn't live their life back then when they were in high school or when they were in college. They, jumped into marriage too quickly, even if they were 32 when they did it. They, became adults too fast, whatever it was. And the standard age that many people feel, and I'm not talking experts, I'm talking those of us in the trenches as spouses, observing our spouses. It seems that the common age they regress to is 17. Now, we get many ages where they'll cycle through, but the big kernel of it is they're 17. And that would especially a high energy replayer. So they regress in attitude, they regress in maturity to about 17, and they relive those days. As a low energy wallower, they still may regress that way, and a low energy wallower will often try high energy replay at the beginning, but it fails. So he has had an emotional affair, and maybe they were never going to take it further than really good friends that were an alienating force or not, and maybe not. Maybe it just didn't work. Or it really is something. He's still having an emotional affair with her because he still checks in. And because he has distanced himself emotionally and a little bit within the house geographically, he may not be able to tell as much. So we don't know. Right now, it hasn't even been a year. And I know it feels like forever, so I'm so sorry. Midlife crisis is a very long journey. So he wants you to be friends. What is his trust level in you? And what I mean by that is, how avoidant is he? How much does he confide in you? How much are you able to say, you know what? You don't look good today. How are you feeling? Or, have you seen a doctor? Or you seem depressed. Now we're going into not just you don't look good today, because of medical reasons that are biomedical, not mental. Now we're going into, I'm not depressed, I'm fine. So maybe you're allowed to say you have a sniffle Or it sounds like that's a really bad cough. But are you allowed to also go mental and say, you know what? I wonder if you should see a doctor about this anxiety or this depression you've been having, or you're having a lot of anger issues, any of that. Where are you on that spectrum? There's something I call the right of wife or the right of spouse. And we lose that. But if you are have an at-homer, you may not have lost it as much. And the right of spouse is when my husband, he just had surgery. And I took him to his follow-up appointment. He's on crutches, so he's having trouble. He actually tried to drive home and he kind of regretted it. He's now driving more, but he kind of regretted it because his leg wasn't lifted up and he's like, okay, my leg is hurting now. So I was driving everywhere, and so he needed me. But also, he wanted me to take him to those appointments. And I had an appointment right after one of his, same building. And I said, do you want me to go in with you, or did he want me to wait for mine? No, he wanted me there. He wanted me sitting there with him. That's the right of spouse. Not just that I said, I should be there with you, but he wanted me there. He wanted me to be able to give input. He wanted me to be able to take notes. There was a time a few years ago when he asked me, will you come with me and we share our general general medical doctor, our primary care doctor. And he asked me if I would come because he's been having some issues. And he says, I want you to take notes. I think you'll ask better questions. And he hadn't asked me for a while to come with him. And sometimes with the kids, our schedules don't align. And I was like, wow, he's asked me. Wow. And that was why. That's the right of spouse. So the right of spouse is they will ask you, but also the right of spouse is you can make some suggestions or offer more advice, or they may confide in you. Now, an avoidant is still going to be an avoidant and may not as much. But where is he on that? I'm sure it is lessened since he went downstairs and he doesn't even talk to you, text you, anything during the day. But he's there on the weekends. He might not ask you, hey, can you go to my doctor appointment with you? He's probably not going to do that, but are you even allowed to make a suggestion or to ask a question? And we have to be careful with questions, especially if they start with why. But are you allowed to show that level of concern without his defenses going up? Maybe it's none of your business, or him just turtling in and starting to avoid. Where is that? So that's our start, because this is depression. And I want you to look with your research and understand what it is to be with a depressed spouse. Because that is a lot of what you're dealing with right now. Also look at some of the male menopause, some of Jed Diamond books, and Terrence Real books. Terrence Real wrote the book I Don't Want to Talk About It, and it is about masked depression, he calls it male pattern depression. Jed Diamond wrote some books on male menopause. I think he has several different terms that he uses for those. And forget the age cycle where if you feel he's older than that, but he might go over some different hormones and the balances that go into that. But also Terry Real especially is going to talk about the way men handle depression versus women, or how society stereotypes depression. And notice I said low energy wallower. That's overt. That's what we think of as depression. High energy replayers are also depression, but we don't think of that because they're avoiding depression. They're avoiding that stereotype of depression. But all of midlife crisis really is depression. And he's displaying something that is a little bit more overt, but that could be still anger and seething anger underneath because he's still trying to avoid. It's just he's not acting happy and living a fantasy. You can tell he's just grumpy and angry, probably. Okay? And what do you do with that? He wants you to be friends. Work on it. I know it's really hard. But what can you do to work on when he's there? What can you do to not be a doormat? You don't jump through hoops. And you work on your own life, and you have 5 days out of the week where it sounds like he's given you a lot of space. And maybe you didn't want it. but take the advantages that are in that, okay? For your own self-reflection, for your own self-development, and for your own education and learning about what's going on with him also, but really for focusing on some things that you wanted to do, okay? But also for your own detachment and learning to first be calm and mindful so that you are in a state of emotional regulation, which helps you to handle the challenges that are being a challenge for you in dealing with the unknown that is dealing with him. And it's going to help you, rather than being so stressed, so anxious, and feeling so taken advantage of and feeling so angry. Because I want you to not be a doormat. And I want you to also be grace and gracious. And that is a tightrope balance to be both of those things. Because the doormat is not grace. Grace does not mean you are a doormat. And it can be confusing because you want to be nice, but sometimes being nice, there's the too nice, where you end up on the doormat and you get too close. And there are going to be times where you do go over, lean too much, and you fall onto the doormat off that tightrope. You get back up. It's okay. It's okay. But I want you to understand what's going on with him. And my guess is that this is depression. And I want you to focus on what you need to do for you. You're going to make a full life with yourself. And you've got 5 days every week, it sounds like, to work on that. And what do you need to do during those times where he seems to be giving you space? And maybe you're not a person who wants it. Maybe you're the person who wants a lot of closeness with him. But what can you do to help yourself be as whole and happy and healthy so that you're there as somebody, a helpmate for somebody who's depressed, and you are there as when somebody is not depressed anymore and is coming through it. You are there as a person that can be that partner, a whole and healthy person, because they come home broken. But we want to help them choose to not be broken with us, okay? And I don't have a lot of answers for you so much as I can point you in those directions. So if you have any more questions, just let me know. This is a type of midlife crisis, okay? But when I see low energy wallowers, especially those that seem even more and more depressed, because it is really about depression, I really point towards that depression, towards learning about what it is and learning about what it is to be the partner of somebody who's depressed, okay? So that's what I want you to think about. So I hope this helps you. And I hope it helps the rest of you. And I will see everybody in the next